Hi everyone, and great to speak to you again. I hope that you have enjoyed everything that has been presented so far. I think I've learned something, hopefully everybody else has as well. Before we wrap up today and move on to the Q&A with the team and the community, I wanted to talk a little bit about the road ahead and where the project goes from here. So we actually talked quite a bit earlier about the things that are being developed for the v2.3.0 release that is going to be out there in a couple of weeks after the new community members come in through the Hacktoberfest program, and we start with the release in November. But there is a lot more that we're working on going forward. So let's have a look at some of the big items. We're going to continue roughly with the release rhythm that we have been using for the last couple of years. We're going to be looking at large feature releases every 4 to 6 months, and then each month in between, if there's important bug fixes to get out there, we'll be doing a release roughly each month, which seems to have been working quite well. Of course, you don't have to wait for the next release to use some of the functionality. If there's a major bug fix that you want to be using, you can use that version number like Go will allow you to. In the module, just specify the SHA hash. And if you want to work with the latest thing, you can always go get Fyne at the develop version number, which is an alias for the latest thing that we're working on. Anyhow, what we are going to be doing as soon as the next release is out is to start the planning process for the series of releases starting 2.4. Actually, there's some work underway already, and we're pretty excited that this is going to include a rich text entry widget so that you can have fully interactive rich text in your application. We're going to progress and deliver the drag and drop functionality, which is in the proposal stage right now. We're looking at how the API is going to work. And I hinted with the text work that is being delivered right now, we're going to be able to progress further with internationalisation, and in that we need to deliver translation support into the toolkit so that any user presented strings translate automatically, and that you will be able to make use of this same functionality to translate the content of your application. Also, part of helping people to understand their applications better, we're going to add some features and options for layout debugging, which I'll talk a little bit more about, and some render optimisations that are going to help speed things up in various different ways. So let's actually just start there, looking at the type of optimizations we're looking at. So first of all, we're moving more of the graphical objects onto hardware acceleration. So things that might be drawn partly on the CPU or in memory and then translated as textures, we're moving into actual rendering on your GPU, which will help speed up every application, hopefully by noticeable amount. We are, along with the text work, improving the caching and the text rendering. The main difference here, as well as the new shaping, is to make sure that the caching is at the right level, so it's not a full line of text, but also it's not just a character. The character level doesn't work with complicated strings, and a full line of text very rarely hits a memory cache or a texture cache, of course. So we're going to be tweaking that to get the right level and set it so that the performance is great and the memory usage is lower than it currently is as well. And we're looking to introduce more types to the objects that can be drawn, such as rounded rectangle, which is illustrated thanks very much to Renlight, who has been doing a lot of work here, and Cedric for his help in this area to help bring the curved edges and the more complex shapes to your Fyne applications. We're still working on finalizing an API on that and also optimizing the delivery, because this, as you can see, becomes quite complex when you start with transparencies and overlays. So there's a little more work there to do, but we're very excited that that's going to be in the release after the one that we're currently working on. As always, we are marching forward to try and support new devices, essentially always looking to be the toolkit that will work so that your applications can appear on anything that has a screen, basically. We are firstly looking at introducing support for Linux mobile devices. These are somewhat underway. You can try it out on the current version actually, but it's not fully there. We want it to be a first-class citizen. So PinePhone is the forerunner in this area that we're looking at right now. Librem is another option, and also we have been looking at the planet devices such as the Cosmo and the Gemini. They are all sadly quite different in how they work. However, the underlying technologies should be straightforward, so we will be able to get applications there in a full screen kiosk mode, but integrating with the user flow and task switching and so forth. Maybe some more work, but those are the next devices that we're looking to be fully supporting. And actually, in part of that is to complete the Wayland driver support for Linux. If Wayland doesn't mean anything to you, that's great. And in fact, folk with a Wayland Linux desktop might find that their code has been working already. But this is broadly due to an X11 compatibility layer, which works very well, but we'd rather that we could avoid for performance and, again, integration level reasons. So we're going to be completing that driver and give it a more first-class experience to the more modern and embedded Linux desktop mobile experiences. And also more wide support for embedded devices like kiosks, screens that you might see, anything that is a graphical presentation but not on a typical device that you're working with. It might be your multimedia center in your house, or maybe even your thermostat. Items like that are going to be very interesting to see how we can continue the same smooth tooling and APIs to work on those devices as well. And lastly, for platform support, the web driver, which you can use already, we've talked about earlier today, does have some small limitations around multiple windows and storage functionality. Of course, with all of the work that we're doing in cloud storage, it's an ideal time to complete that. So we're going to make sure that the web driver is fully functional for that future release as well. Next, I want to talk a little bit about internationalisation. This is something that we have been wanting to get into the toolkit for a very long time. We get an amazing number of people who are using Fyne in places that the languages don't support by default and the documentation isn't written in. We want to make sure that more is done to support these languages that aren't bundled by default. We know that Chinese and Japanese are really popular languages that are missing. There's of course others that we would like to include. Do let us know which one you feel needs work for your project, and we'll see if we can prioritize that. Based on the text handling improvements, that should be much improved. But to completely deliver on it, we do need to add some more code around font lookups, so we can make use of any fonts that might be on the installed system, so that we can avoid bundling lots more data, and also to do more to understand the device's locale where the application is running to match expectations, whether it's date formats, languages, fonts, that kind of thing. And we want to make sure that we expose an API for application developers as well, to be able to make appropriate decisions based on the configuration that's found from the, again, locale, the language, the date format, and so forth. And the translation work that we're going to be delivering will be exposing to application developers as well, so that you can bundle assets that will adapt your application to the appropriate language found at runtime. We're also going to be working on ways that you can learn more about the widget tree in your application, so that you can query and understand how things are set up in your user interface, but also at runtime to be able to inspect the widget state, the geometry, the placement, and how it's interacting with elements around it, leading to a complete debugging of layout, which is really going to help people who are trying to choose the right layout, the right container, or they're not too sure why something is too small or too large. We're going to be able to deliver this debugging mode so that that is graphically presented to you for easier understanding. And for other use cases, we're looking to make it possible to store the user interface definition out to a file. So whatever is currently running or is being configured through code, we can think of a number of reasons why it might be interesting to write that out to a file, much like the test handling we saw earlier, where you can compare the widget state with a file store representing exactly that information. But more powerfully, that you could then load that definition at runtime. Now, this has actually limited use intentionally. We're not expecting that you would move to developing your application in JSON files and load it at runtime. That doesn't really provide the same safety and compile checking that is available in the current tooling, but it does support some use cases that are not currently possible. Outside of the API and the toolkit, we're looking to bring a lot more polish and care to the application and add-ons listing websites. We're going to give them a spruce up, a new design, make something that really represents the quality of the software and the toolkit that's being presented in these sites. Of course, if you're not familiar, we have the apps site at apps.fyne.io and the more recently added component site, addons.fyne.io. And we want to make it much easier to find what you're looking for and also to manage the applications and components that you have listed on there before. And based off some of the work that you've seen earlier today, we're going to be working to distribute binary applications. So that means we don't need people to be having all of the download of source code processing each time they press on the install. And on top of this, the app discovery app that we have created, it currently integrates with that site. It discovers the applications and allows you to download them. But we are looking to have that make use of binary distribution as well. So when you tap install, it's able to just grab the binary for your application signed and ready to go, which means it's not going to need any developer tools present to be able to do that. Of course, makes it available for a wider range of platforms and also improve what its capability is for managing your installed applications and the upgrade process. Lastly, we are very excited to put more time into welcoming new contributors. It's been a great late part of the year. Oktoberfest has been a real boost to the number of people involved in the project. So thanks for everybody who's either found us or started contributing to the project just recently. We're really excited to have people working on design enhancements, different ways to improve the overall user experience and just make it a much better experience right out of the box, as great as it can be. There is a focus on stability as well, so most people are coming in and finding that they can fix a bug that was annoying them from their application, which of course benefits everybody. And a number of people also coming in from fixing the documentation, helping improve our examples, tutorials, the API documentation, all of which of course is open source and generated directly from the repositories that you can find on GitHub. But mostly, I am just super excited to be welcoming so many people to the community that are being involved in open source for the first time, whether it's because you're just starting development, building a graphical application, or finding that you want to give back for the first time ever. It's really great to have new people here, and I think you'll find that the whole Go community and also the Fyne community is really happy to help out, answer questions and offer support to people who are here and learning and trying to give back for the first time. So if you're considering it, please do get involved. I hope that these videos have all been educational, but if you would like to know more, we have so much documentation out there, examples, tutorials, all hosted on the developer.fyne.io website. We also have a YouTube channel, which I suspect you've found if you're watching this video, but there are all of our previous conference videos are available there, and tutorials, everything from getting started to adding complex functionality to some of your applications. If you haven't found out how to contribute, then the place to go is GitHub. We're looking for more people all the time to help as part of the team that deliver the code, the tests. If you want to test or write tests, all great. Documentation, design, or if you just would like to come along and offer some positive vibes, or even a carefully worded critique of something that you think could be improved, everything is very welcome. And of course, I've mentioned it earlier, we are hugely thankful to all of our sponsors that make this possible. If you like what you've seen, if you get a lot of value from Fyne, then please do consider sponsoring the community. It just would not be possible without that. We really appreciate it, and very much looking forward to hopefully inviting speakers to collaborate in person next year. And of course, a sponsorship really helps us to get people traveling and able to come together. So thanks in advance if you would like to do that. It's been fantastic to present another packed event of all of these talks. Thank you so much to all of our speakers. It's been really great to get your thoughts. Thanks to Jacob, to Derek, to Cedric, and to everybody who has been part of making it possible. I know a lot of names have been shouted out from various slides during the course of the day, so thanks to everybody involved. Hopefully we will see you next year, wherever or whatever we're doing. It will be live streamed again. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.